Okay, so this is the PETZL Actik Core head torch. So before I start it up, we'll just have a look at I'm not going to go into all the details. I find most YouTube video reviews don't do any more than tell you what you can find out by looking at the website. So this is going to be very much more the practical use of this torch. Okay, so it does, when it's on your head, you can swivel it forward. There are 5 clicks. When I used it last night for the first time in anger, most of the time I had it on the second click down, which gave me a beam roughly 10 meters in front of me, which is a good distance when you're running on rough trails. If you're worried about tree roots, you can click it down another 2, which brings it in about 2 meters in front of your feet. In practice, I found that I was using this when we stopped to have a regroup, and flicking it down meant it wasn't going in other people's eyes. Now PETZL say that it wouldn't do that anyway because it's got these flutes in the lens, but in practice it maybe has a small effect, but not very much. Loading the battery, it's just the clip in the, it's kind of like an original iMac, isn't it? This transparent coloured thing. Okay, so this is the battery. The battery that comes with it is a PETZL Core battery. It lasts, if it's on maximum brightness, which is 350 lumens, it lasts for a notional 2 hours. I found on a test that it lasted 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is fine. So upsides and downsides, of course. Rechargeable, it does have a light that comes up when it's on charge. This little bit here is a nice bright red. When it's fully charged, it turns green, so easy to see when your batteries are charged. And you don't need a separate charger, of course. You just, any of these kind of micro USB slots in, plug it in, and away you go, and it charges. It does take quite a while to charge up. To be honest, I can't remember how long it took, but it was, I think, between 5 and 6 hours. But as I say, I'm not sure. Good. The other way that you can run the Actik Core is what they call hybrid. So there we go, I'm having to use the USB charger to get the battery out. It's hybrid in that you can either use the core battery, or you can use ordinary AAA batteries, and these can be either ordinary batteries or they can be rechargeables. Now I quite like a bit about this, which is the plus sign is marked on the case, so nice and easy. So you put your button side onto the plus, so it's 2 that go that way, 1 that goes that way, and we're away. Good, so fine. Now this one here is the standard core battery. It's rated at 2 hours at the maximum setting, or I think it's 7 hours. Yes, it's 7 hours at the standard, which is 100 lumens. The difference between 100 and 350 isn't as much as you would expect. So for the most part, I think you could easily get away with running smoothish trails on the 100 lumens and getting 7 hours out of it. But where I run, it's mostly quite technical stuff, and you definitely want that extra bit of brightness to not to see into the distance, but to really illuminate the area in front of your feet. So if you look at the website or the technical documentation, it says that when you run with standard batteries, in other words the AAAs, they will last for 40 hours on standard and also 40 hours on the maximum power. So there must be a typo there. Looking at these ones, if you take these 3 rechargeables, then the power that's available from these three are twice what you get from the core battery. So logically, if this one lasts 2 hours or 2 hours and 10 minutes, these three here you would expect to get about between 4 and 4.5 hours. Where am I? I'm losing track of where my camera is. There we go. So 2 and a bit hours, 4 and a bit hours. The big benefit, of course, of the rechargeables is that if you're out on a long trail, maybe doing an ultra, and you're running overnight, then you can easily swap these very cheaply. You can buy these for a set of 4 for under a £5. These ones, I believe, are about £20 each. 12 hours on these, you would need 6 of these. So 6 of these would cost you over £100. The same 12 hours with these would be 3 sets, which would cost you about £15. So remarkable difference in cost. The other difference that you get is that when these batteries are running, they're discharging all the time, of course. The light will stay bright until this one is more or less completely discharged, and then it'll go down onto a reserve, but it goes down really quickly. It's like switching down to the 5 lumen light, and you have a reserve of 30 minutes according to the book. But in practice, I found that after it shut off the main light, it continued to light on the reduced light for several hours. Bright enough to see the trail to walk out of the forest, but certainly not bright enough to run. You don't get any warning that this is going to go. It just suddenly goes. These ones here, the brightness comes down as the batteries discharge. So when you're halfway through the life of the battery, you've got half the available light. Good. So let's bung the battery in and actually look at its operation. Again, I want to focus not so much on how to operate it as much as what is good and what's bad about it. Okay, so there's 2 white lenses here for your white light, and these cycle through from 5 lumens to 100 lumens up to the maximum 350 lumens. This small one down at the side here is for your red light, and to me this is a bit of a redundancy. It's only 2 lumens, and on a dark trail you can barely see the red light on the surface. The more likely use would be to use it as a strobe for distress, and in practice I don't really think it's all that a fantastic light. So let's have a look at it and we'll see what's good and what's not so good. So first click, we go to 5 lumens. Now we're about to find out what's not so good about this. You would expect that if I press the button again, it would go to the middle setting, 100 lumens. It switches off. If you don't click for 3 seconds, then the default action of the button is to switch the torch off. And I can see that there might be some sense in that. If you're on the low light, you don't want to have to press 3 times to get it switched off. But if you're on the middle light and suddenly you decide that you need an extra bit of light for this technical part of the trail, then when you click to get the full light, you're in pitch darkness and you've got to quickly cycle back through. So 3 seconds, anything after that, and next time you touch it, it's going to be off. Switching it on, press and hold, you go into red mode. As I say, it really doesn't give you any light to see by. Pressing again, because I was more than 3 seconds, switched it off. So we'll press it back on. Now we're into the strobe mode. As I say, if you were expecting to be rescued on the strength of that light, I think you would be severely disappointed. Yeah, okay. So press again. I was going to say press and hold to go back to white light, but because it was more than 3 seconds, so I have to press again to get it on, quickly press and hold, and go back to white. Then we can, no, because that was more than 3 seconds. 100 lumens, and there's the bright one, and the fourth one is off. So there we have it. That's the PETZL Actik Core. There is another Actik which doesn't have the core battery, but it's also dimmer. This one is 350 lumens on the maximum. The plain Actik is 300. The big ones, the ones that cost you upwards of £100, have got, 500 lumens or whatever. There's no question that 350 lumens is fine. You can get away with the 100, as I say, on smooth trails. But certainly for 50 quid, I've got no complaints. This is a perfectly adequate torch, and I'm very happy with it. So I took this torch out onto the trails last night and did some tests in the real dark, and I've made a separate video which will let you see that. As it happened, some of my colleagues came down the trails while I was making the video, and they had other kinds of PETZL head torches, and I asked them to shine theirs up the trail so that we could do a comparison test. So if you're interested in seeing how it actually performs in practice, have a look at the follow-on video.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to make sure you get notifications of all new content.